I'm John LLewellyn. I set up LLewellyn Consulting after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, where I had been global chief economist. I'm in partnership with my son, Preston LLewellyn, and Russell Jones, also an alumni of Lehman Brothers. And we specialize in macroeconomics, top-down research more generally, and also specializing of late in the effects of the new technologies on markets and economies. We're looking at about 50 technologies and their separate and collective effects. I think the most important macro view that we have is to ask the question, why is it that real interest rates are so low after recovery's been going so long? Now, of course, the simple answer is that desired investment is not as high or not high in relation to desired savings. But that just begs the question, why is desired investment so low? Or alternatively, why is desired savings so high? And in fact, it's the low level of investment that is so striking. And it must suggest that either people have surprisingly little faith in the future compared with how they did in the 60s and 70s, or else that there's something new about the nature of the new technologies that doesn't require as much investment as it used to in previous epochs. I think probably there's a little truth in both. I think the most important short-term view stems from the change which is taking place in institutions. Just about everybody alive today, anybody under about the age of 70, has lived in a world of stable institutions, trade institutions, financial institutions, monetary setting, rate setting institutions. And for the first time since the Second World War, these are now being challenged. And so we're reading about protectionism, we're reading about political interference with central banks, we're seeing changing in trading relationships in Europe, for example. And I think there's a very serious chance that people are underestimating what the consequences of this will be. It wouldn't be surprising because they've never seen it. If you've lived in a world with unchanging institutions for 50, 60 years, you think that what you're observing at the moment is the natural state of affairs. But it isn't. It's actually the exception. We have seen quite a shift, and I think it's continuing, in client interest. One of the things which has happened in my professional lifetime is that macroeconomic information has become available more cheaply and of higher quality than it used to be, with, for example, the IMF, and the OECD, newspapers like the Economist and the Financial Times all absorbing this and analyzing it and writing it in ways which people can understand. But the new technologies are something different. I first came across this when I wrote about climate change, where it was necessary, first of all, to understand the science at some level, and then explain it to CEOs before then trying to work out what the implications might be for policy, and hence for their firms. We're now finding a rerun of that, not only with climate change, where the interest is getting stronger again, but also in respect of a whole range of technologies. And in fact, we have been working with an initial list of 100 technologies which Imperial College in London says are going to change the world. And we've selected about 50 of these, which are probably going to have an effect in the next 10 to 20 years, and which therefore CEOs need to be thinking about right now. And the interesting thing is that most CEOs have not heard of most of them. So here you've got the fascinating situation that CEOs are going to be affected within their professional lifetime by a range of technologies. They exist, but they've not heard anything at all about them. So we're trying to take these and work through what they imply.